Did you know that God can use you, even though you may not feel like you're the person, even though you may not look like you're the person? God can use anyone who's available. Hi, my name's Andrew. This is Faith Boost, and I got some good news for you, some ancient secrets that still work in the modern world. We are parking ourselves in 1 Samuel chapter 16 because it's just such an amazing story, which is so relevant to the world today. You remember the story in verse 7 that the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I've refused him. The Lord does not see as man sees, for that man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." Now, the context of this is God had said to Samuel, "Arise, fill your horn with oil. You're going to anoint a king today." Samuel sees the oldest son, David's oldest son. He's good looking, he's confident, he's a natural leader, he's the firstborn of 8 sons. You can imagine 7 sons were looking up to him. They were looking to him for leadership, for example, for strength at times. He would have rescued them out of some tricky situations, possibly taught them some skills. So he was a natural leader. And God said to Samuel, "Go and get me a king." Samuel sees the oldest boy. He's like, "This is the one. This is the Lord's anointed." And that's when God said, "No, you're looking at the outside. I'm looking at the inside." God chooses the youngest son, the one who's not even a man yet, to be the next king. Now, there's some interesting truth here that is relevant to all of us. God can use you to do what he wants to do, even if you don't feel like you're the one, even though you may not feel like you're able to do it. God can lead you into areas that you've never done before. You can maybe start to talk if you've never spoken to people before. You can maybe even, sing in front of people if you've never sung in front of people before. You can maybe start a business if you've never run a business before. There's so many things that God can lead you to do. You might start a new profession or a new career path that you don't feel capable of doing. I remember years ago, I prophesied over someone, I prayed for someone, and I said, "I feel like God's going to make you an executive." And I didn't know anything about the guy, didn't know what he did for a job. And he came to me later and he goes, "Look, I work for an organization with 100,000 people in it. I'm one of the many. I'm a business analyst. There's only a handful of executives in this whole organization." I just said, "Well, I feel like God's going to do it, mate." And I just left it at that. Well, he came to me a few months later. His boss approached him and said, "You're going to go into an executive training program." He became an executive. God just did something that he'd never done before. And God does that. And God was definitely doing this with David. But if you analyze the Bible, so many of the heroes in the Bible were unlikely heroes. Moses, God says, "I'm going to send you to speak to Pharaoh." Now remember, to us, Pharaoh's this kind of weird sort of dude in history that wore some weird clothes, lived in Egypt, But in the day, Pharaoh was the most powerful man in the world. Egypt was the most sophisticated, advanced, prosperous, nation state in the world. Pharaoh was the head of Egypt. He was the most powerful man in the world. We say today the American president is the leader of the free world. America is the most powerful nation in the world right now on paper. So the leader of America is the most powerful man in the world. He can push buttons, he can make things happen. Well, Pharaoh was that guy. And God says to Moses, "I'm going to send you to Pharaoh." And Moses is like, whoa. He only talks to really high-level people, high-end people, intelligent people, successful people, world leaders. And Moses says to God, "I got to stutter. I can't even speak very well. Why don't you send my brother Aaron?" And God's like, "No, you're the one. You're the one." What about Jeremiah? God says to Jeremiah, "Hey, I'm going to call you. I've called you. I'm going to send you. I'm going to speak through you. And just get ready. I'm going to use you." And what does Jeremiah say? "But Lord, I'm young. I'm a youth." And God says, "Don't say I'm a youth, because I'm going to send you and I'm going to speak through you." The things that we create as barriers to ourselves being used by God, God just dismisses them. He doesn't care about our fears. He doesn't care about our experience. He doesn't care about our age. He doesn't care about our looks. He doesn't care about how much money we've got. He doesn't really care if we've been to university or not, or even Bible college. God can use you and I if we have a willing heart. And David had a willing heart. He stepped up to the plate. He became one of the greatest leaders in the history of the world, definitely one of the greatest leaders in Israel's history. What can God do through you? Have a willing heart, an obedient heart, and let the Lord use you.